All right, here we are. One more Techno Saturday. Hi, I'm John Selway. And, right, this is our chance to hang out again on the weekend and make techno music or techno-adjacent genres. And today is kind of checking out some new stuff day. That's generally how I start my 4-week cycle out. I do a new plugin, a new instrument. In this case, well, the big new thing is that the Live 11 public beta has just started and the hype has begun to saturate the music nerd universe. And I found out about it. I have to be honest, like I'm a little out of the loop these days. Somehow I didn't even realize that this version was coming out when it was. I mean, I knew there was something coming. It was about time, but anyway, I've been wrapped up in other things, I suppose. But they were pretty good with their embargo. Like even the certified instructors that I know personally said nothing. So everybody kept that secret nice and tight. But anyway, so I originally was doing this episode on this Izotope IRIS2 Spectral synth or sample-based synth, and which I think the promo might be over already, but I think it's just ending. But Beatport and Plugin Boutique had a partnership to give away a free copies of IRIS2. So I grabbed it because I've never really used it. And I thought, what's the big deal about this? And why are they giving it away for free? So we're going to be playing with that today. And of course, I have my Live 11 beta installed. And while we're on the subject of spectral synthesis, there's a couple of really cool new audio effects in Live 11. We have the Spectral Resonator, and we have the Spectral Time, which is, I guess it's a spectral delay. So I'm playing around with both of those things, and whatever else comes up with Live 11 this is literally the first day I'm using Live 11. So let's keep our fingers crossed that everything plays nicely. We don't get any bugs or crashes. Anyway, chat. Hello. Andrew Duke, first up, as he is often, and here he's a regular, and we love to have him around. What's up, Hank? And Jay. Hi, Jay. Two waving hands from Jay. 343 Labs, of course. I believe that must be Thomas. Hi, Sarah. Welcome. And yeah, of course, this is 343 TV, brought to you by 343 Labs. 343 Labs is a music production school. In-person and online classes are available. We have our original location in New York. We have our newer location in Berlin. Just had a chance we had a meeting, an instructor meeting recently. I got to put some faces to the names of the instructors in Berlin, and that was nice to briefly say hello and get to know a little bit about them. A lot of good talent that we have. Good experienced professional professors, let's say, available to you through 343 Labs. So we have a special going on right now. I think we've got like an early Black Friday kind of a thing. There will be links. So keep your eye on the chat. And of course, follow, subscribe, get the alerts. Whatever you want to do, give us thumbs up, give us thumbs down. Let us know how we're doing and what you think. Good or bad, we don't care. We just want the honest truth. And right, we also have a giveaway. We are giving away a certificate for Ableton Live. Really good timing with this new version coming out. So also keep your eye on the chat for the links related to the giveaway. This is probably your very last chance to join if you want to win. And we will announce the winner at the end of the show. So, what am I doing here? Hey, Max. Right. $200 voucher. That's what we did last time, right? I think that's the regular amount, $200 for Ableton. What a good, sweet deal that is to some lucky viewer out there. All right. Let's play around with Live 11 and Izotope's Iris 2. I've already started a sketch. That's usually what I do. I start playing around and see what I come up with, so we're not just beginning with nothing. Here we go. The first thing I did was unrelated to spectral synthesis. I wanted to make kind of a tough kick. Originally, earlier today, I guess I was feeling anxious, and when I was playing around with the sounds, it was more aggressive and hard. I'm like, maybe we're gonna make something banging today. But actually, I calmed down a little bit. I started with this tough kick, but then it turned into something a little more groovy. So, but it still has the tough kick, which is right there. Which, you could use this for anything probably. It's layered. This is actually the first sample that grabbed my ear as I was going through the kicks on my hard drive, because it's a little bit rough. It's got the reverb in it already, And then I put this subbier, boomier kick underneath it. And the reason why I'm even mentioning this at all is because I came across a pretty common issue when you layer kicks. This can happen. And seasoned pros know this already, but for those of you who are new, you get sometimes when you're layering low frequencies, you get these slow waveforms in the low frequencies that can cancel each other out. So when I first put this deeper kick in, it sounded thin, like it sounded squeezed, like this isn't what that's supposed to sound like. The sub is gone. That's because there's phase cancellation. There's some low fundamental frequency in one sample that's going the opposite phase direction as the other sample, and they're canceling each other out, and it doesn't sound big anymore. So I just phase inverted it. I don't even remember anymore if this is a default saved in the live library. I think I made this, if I recall, but or I don't remember. No, that's another one I did. Never mind. But this is what I put on there. It's just flipping the phase of this channel, and now the sub is back. There's no sub. There's the sub. All right, so just a little side step there about be careful when you're layering your kick drum samples and watch for that phase inversion trick if you do find yourself getting some cancellation happening. I'm already getting questions. Of course, let me just remind all of you, have you burning questions in your heart that you must express to the world? Please let us know, as long as they are related completely to Ableton Live, music production, techno, and what I'm talking about, because I can't help you with your personal problems. So we have a question from our own 343 Labs chat account, which must be Thomas. Can you talk about when to put reverb on a kick? When I want it to sound like it's in a cavern or a warehouse or Berghain. That's basically when to put reverb on a kick. Or if you're going for realism and you want your whole, like you've got an acoustic drum kit and you want it to sound like it's in a room, you put a reverb on the whole thing. And then Abe had his reverb episode recently where he talked about using tiny subtle bits of reverb to fill out a sound, not to make it cavernous. And that's actually something that I'll do a lot on drum sounds, even kicks, is just to make it resonate a little bit more and fill it in. In this case, though, I didn't have an exact reason why I picked that sample with the reverb on it. I thought that was the first thing that I thought sounded good as I was going through the sounds. And sometimes you don't overthink it. You just grab the thing that sounds right in that moment, and that's it. That's as much reason as you need to put reverb on a kick. In the bigger picture, though, having big space effect on your kick makes it sound larger, and it's really, full, and it's going to sound even more big and crazy if you ever get to play this kick drum in a large room. So, all right, so that's enough about my kick. Insert or send? Well, actually, I use insert effects more often than I do return effects somehow. I do a lot of chaining up of effects. And it depends on also why I'm doing it. If I want to quickly put a lot of sounds through one reverb, I put the reverb on the return, and then each sound has its own send level into that return channel, and then I can adjust it and make some things have more reverb and some less, but they're all in the same space, and that way you can simulate nearer or farther, because the farther away it is, the more reverby it's going to be sounding from the perspective of the listener, right? In terms of like sound design and layering things together in the mix and having them fit in their own space individually, a lot of times I'll use an insert. So it really just depends. Let's take a look at what I did next. I put in a little hi-hat pattern using one of the really great Max for Live drum synths, which, you know, now they have put a lot of the Max for Live devices in the main category, so they're easier to find. So instead of having to dig into your Max for Live section, if you want to look for the drum synth instruments, they're right here along with all the other instruments, which totally makes sense and should have always been that way. Same thing with the audio effects, right? I do really like how they have reorganized these categories for the different types of effects. It helps clear things up, actually. This is even going to make it easier to teach when we're talking about different types of effects in Ableton Live class. This is lumping together all of the ones that use modulation and the ones that are basically EQ and so on and so forth. So this helps you kind of understand what's what even before you load it up. And you can find stuff pretty quick. So anyway, this is my first time using this spectral time effect. Let's hear it without. All right. So I've got a little bit of modulation going, an envelope in the clip modulating the decay time. Let's take a look at that. I've got an unlinked loop envelope, right? So the length of this modulation that I'm doing with the envelope is shorter than a bar. You know, the hi-hat pattern is 1 bar. You can see right here. I do also really like the user interface upgrades. The way this looks is really nice. I like the way they've done the velocity, and we have these multiple lanes for different ways of manipulating the Midi. So I've got a little bit of velocity stuff going on here. And there's our envelope. And this one you can see is just shy of a bar. It's 3/4 notes and 3/16 notes. Now, there's one thing I noticed right away, a difference, and I don't know if this is a beta thing or a change in the features. Live 10 has 2 kinds of envelopes. It has automation envelopes, which directly change the parameter of the device. And then it has another type of envelope that are modulators, which are like, you know, applying an envelope as if it were an LFO or something like that, that can change the parameter value, scale it up and down without actually changing the knob itself or the control itself on the device. And this is not here anymore. There is no, you know, normally in Live 10, you would click on a parameter or right click on a parameter and it would say you could choose modulators or automation envelopes. And here there is no modulation envelope anymore. So I searched the beta forum and the features and the, you know, the bug reports and everything like that, and I didn't find any mention of this at all, at least not yet. So if anyone has any, if anyone is in part of the beta and knows what's up with why there's no longer the extra modulation envelopes anymore, let us know. And hello, Tusith. Glad you finally caught the stream too, live. Yes. All right, back to what I'm talking about. Oops, no key mapping, thank you. I was thinking I want this to go a little bit shorter, maybe. I'm just trying to make this like perfectly quantized 16th note hi-hat pattern have a little wavy, flowy groove to it. Right, so I got this brutal kick drum, but then the light kind of groovy hi-hat kind of makes it less aggressive feeling. All right, so that's sort of my starting point for the rhythm. And here's where it started getting weird and deep. So let's take a look at this Izotope. Let's turn that off for a second. All right, this is the star of the show today. Well, it's sort of been, I don't know, Live 11 came in and tried to like steal the spotlight a little bit. But this is the initial idea for the show was to take a look at Iris 2 And this is like literally not the first, but the second time I've actually tried to do anything with it. And it's pretty cool. It's a sampler. I mean, first of all, it's mainly a sampler. And it's a simple, easy to use sampler, actually, that sounds good. The way it's set up. All right, we'll ignore this crazy looking display here with the squiggles on it for a second. If you look on the upper right here, you've got 4 slots. I don't know if that's what Izotope calls them, but I'm calling them slots. So you can layer 4 samples, right? And each sample has its own modulation, tuning, sample playback modes, tuning, etc. Right? And then from there, it gets all mixed together. There's a filter. There are send effects or master effects, which you can have one or the other. Right? It doesn't seem that you can do both send effects and master effects. As far as I know, there's just a switch here that you have to choose, right? And on the bottom left, you have modulators. You have 5 LFOs, 5 envelopes. You have your external Midi inputs like key tracking, velocity, aftertouch, and mod wheel, and then there are 8 macros which you can assign. This interface looks pretty cool. You can resize it. I try not to resize it too much because I've had issues with the screen refreshing and not loading correctly, and I can't see something, so I'm not going to do that right now. But you can say pop out the macro controls separately, which is really cool. You can pop out all the modulation. So yeah, it's a pretty nice, flexible interface that we have here. Tuseth asks, would it be correct to call it a spectral sampler? Yeah, you could call it that. Yeah, I mean semantics, right? It's a sampler. It's a spectral synthesizer, but it's also a spectral sampler. I'm not sure what the difference between those are, but it's spectral. All right. So, all right. So let's get to the elephant in the room. And on the upper left here, this is the spectral part. You can see where all these little squiggles are. When you load in a sample, first, what's also really cool about this is it auto-detects pitch. So you don't have to set the root note manually, like in a lot of samplers, right? I know there's other samplers that do this, but it is a really nice thing, especially if you don't have perfect pitch, where you can just drop in a sample and it will identify the fundamental. It'll try. Sometimes it gets it wrong because samples can be noisy or weird or detuned or harmonic. But it will try to figure out what the fundamental pitch of that is, and then it will assign the root note so that when you play the note on the keyboard, when you play a C, you hear a C. It's in tune and even hopefully in the right octave. It really depends though, but it does a pretty good job of that. So that it's fast. You know, you can just drop samples in and start playing with them without having to worry about the tuning some of the time, which is very useful. All right, let's actually just listen to this sound for a second. I came up with this kind of rhythmic pattern thing, kind of techno-y, sort of musical / percussive. All right, and actually the level is low right now. Why? Because the shaper is off. I'm doing a kind of sidechain ducking effect with the shaper. Let's hear that with the beat. See, I'm already dancing. That's a good sign. Dominic Frechette says, I'm really looking forward to the new convolution reverb in 11. Yeah, we should take a look at the new hybrid reverb, I think. I think I have one in here somewhere already. So what's going on in this sound? All right, so there's a couple of layers. All of the tonal variation, most of the tonal variation you're hearing in there is selecting, and this is the spectral part, selecting different parts of the spectrum in that sample. And it kind of plays, you can select all of them over time. There's some different controls. I won't want to mess up this sound yet. But so basically I just used this, there's like this little magic wand selection tool, like you're in Photoshop or something, and you just go in there and click, and it'll find a bunch of frequencies that are together. And like right there, you can see those straight lines there. If you see straight solid lines going across, that's like a identifiable pitch. So what it'll do is if you magic wand that, it'll try to select all of the frequencies that are at that, in that range, that are those harmonics, right? And so you can kind of pick shapes out of it. And then if you select different little bits and pieces of the spectrum over time, you'll hear those sounds changing. Let's actually, maybe, and that's kind of what I did here. I did some kind of free drawing. There's like a paintbrush, so I made little loops here. I did some straight lines. This was all kind of random as it was playing. Now the rhythm is coming from the sample. You can see in the sample there's like stripes, so you can see rhythm over time. And that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are all 16th notes, basically. This loop that I'm playing has a 16th note rhythm in it already. And I had to tune it a little bit, fine-tune it to get it to play in the right tempo. So actually, let's mute the hi-hat for a second. That's one thing it doesn't do, as even though it like will automatically detect the pitch, it doesn't do like time stretching, warping, like automatically fitting a beat into time. It'd be amazing if it did. Maybe IRIS3, they can add that or something. But so in order to get that in time, I had to find a note that was close to the tempo, and then fine tune it to get it just right. And that's old school sampling. Back in the day, before we had warping or recycle or automatic beat detection, you had to trim your sample perfectly and tune it to fit your tempo. All right, so you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna mute those channels right now, and let's try this spectral experiment. All right, so when you have an empty slot, you have the sample browser. We can click preview to play the sample that we select. Another nice thing about IRIS2 is it has a very huge library of different kinds of samples that you can add to it. It doesn't install them in the beginning. You can download them separately and just pick the ones that you like. So it's, you know, if you didn't miss the free giveaway of this, just to get the sample library was awesome, right? For nothing. They are still doing some specials right now. I think they've got like a $50 package that includes IRIS2 and a bunch of other cool plugins from Izotope that if you like this, it's no brainer because it comes with all this other really cool stuff. Anyway, these are just some of the basic ones that are installed when you first put it on your system. Lots of strange noises to play with. All right. It can be really interesting to play with noise in this thing because it's got this spectral filter thing going on. You can find harmony in noise because you could just pick out specific frequencies. So I might try to do that. Go into. All right, that's total. It's sidechained rain right now. Let's load up the rain. All right, so we have just a bunch of noise. And let's turn the shaper off, actually. In fact, let's actually clear the mapping so I can control the volume. All right, so now we're just hearing rain. And we're hearing that sample repeated every 2 beats. So it's giving it a very simple rhythm. And we can zoom in and just, it's a long sample, right? We're just using the little bit of it. We could go in and select a different part of it. It's a little louder, right? We can move that selection around. All right, I'm going to go there because it's louder. Now let's see what else we can do here. You could change that window so you can hear like I'm sweeping up and down. That's another thing this doesn't do, and there may be some other instruments out there that do, but I can't modulate all this spectral stuff. You're really just stuck with selecting a range, but that can still be cool. Like let's actually clear this up again. Let's try this magic wand tool and see what happens. So now we're getting... That sounds weird. So you're hearing these little kind of... We're hearing like... I'm doing... It's kind of like additive synthesis now. I'm adding in lots of modulating sine waves somehow. So you can find in noise, you can find frequencies in noise that we hear as melody in a way. Or strange modulations. Let's clear this out again. And free draw a little bit. We can change the size of our brush. All right, we're back to the beginning. Let's zoom in. So it's really great for making weird techno noise, right? Just already you can come up with strange loops in a second and layer this. Then you have 3 other slots to layer other types of textures with. If I want to do straight ranges of frequencies, I can use this frequency selection tool. This is getting weird, isn't it? All right. You can also kind of... it's birds. So we're just sculpting out of that noise. It's so techno and weird. I love it. Can transpose that up. All right, so that's like I'm starting another weird hard techno track with this strange bird-like spectral thing that happened just by accident. This kind of this playing with this synth, this sampler, whatever it is, for the first time, totally lines up with Abe had his concept of like accidents and taking risks, and he had his conversation with Neil yesterday, but yeah, he started out talking about like setting yourself up to experiment and come up with crazy stuff. This is definitely a type of synthesis that gives you that right away. Oh, hello. My daughter is sneaking into the frame. Say hi. Nara, are you here to learn about techno and spectral synthesis? Okay, they can't hear you, by the way. So why am I even asking you questions? So seriously, I'll talk to you later. Nice to see you. Enjoy. Go have fun. Dance. She's doing her dance class online, I think. I think that's what's going on. So she's excited. It's about time for a pause in the music anyway. Let's go back to the chat and acknowledge Loom. Is it Loom or Lume? Or I think it's Loom. Loving these videos. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm really glad that somebody out there is loving them. And that's why I'm doing this. And that's why 343 Labs is here to share what we do with all of you. And, during these difficult times, we have to say it again and again, we're all in this together. We're globally dealing with this pandemic, and we're not all able to connect in the same ways. And this is one of the new ways we have of reaching out, of expanding our community, and letting everybody know about the school and what we do, the classes we have. I do Ableton Live production classes, sort of general music production classes. And then I also have my own course, Synthesis and Sound Design for Producers, where I like to, teach about the different possibilities with synthesis and sound design from a musical and composition perspective and a practical perspective. So learning how to listen, learning how to hear the details, learning your, like an artist knows his colors and his brushes, that you're aware of like what type of synthesis is going to work for my style and how am I going to get my ideas out, and demystifying different types of synthesis, for example. So it's not a beginner course, but it's not a super advanced course either, I will say. It's somewhere in between. It's probably, if my course is for you if you're already comfortable to a certain point with making music, but maybe like you've just been using presets and you want to go beyond it, or you want to get deeper into how certain types of synthesis works from a creative perspective. So if that's you, I highly recommend that you look into my Synthesis and Sound Design for Producers course at 343 Labs. It's mainly online, probably staying online for now. And keep your eye on the chat here. As I speak, I see that there's a link there for a new synth class I have starting tomorrow. So if you're ready to jump, we have a special going on right now. I think we've got discounts. So now's the time. Jump on in and join us and explore synthesis from, you know, a different perspective. It's not about like recipes for how to make a sound. Although if you ask me and I know it, I'm going to share it with you. But it's more for me about helping you guys figure out how to get there yourself. So instead of just saying, this is how you do a techno bass from A to Z, right? Or 1 to 10 in these steps. And that makes one sound. I'd rather teach you all of, to think, what tool do I need and to do that sound that I like? And then you figure out the steps because you have the tools already and you have the ear and the practice to hear those small details that make it work. Cool. Yeah. Sarah, thanks. She's sweet, my daughter. And Harris Nickel, you were my teacher back in the Dubspot days. Love seeing you are still teaching. Thank you very much, Harris. And I'm glad that, I guess you're still around making music and following along with the new stuff. So glad to have you. TWD Industries says, does this also have an eraser tool to remove frequencies that you've drawn in? Yes, it does. It's like, I don't like those birds. Or let's say I don't like the high-pitched birds. So I'm going to click on the eraser. And then I can, whoa, that's really big. Let's make that smaller. That sounds really kind of cool and weird at the same time, doesn't it? So yeah, you could totally like erase out of it, poke holes in it. Actually, no, you can't. That doesn't work. You have to do something first. It's cool that you can draw a shape, and if you like that shape, you can just grab it and move it. Let's do some of those little chirps again. Not working so well anymore. The title of this video should have been like, how to make techno bird loops. Sorry. All right, I'm gonna get off of that sound and get back to the other stuff going on here. I could just mute that and go back to originally what I was doing, which I think I like a lot better. All right, so once you get the crazy spectral thing that you like, you know, you can layer stuff together, obviously. So, all right, so this was my first layer, doing the sequence kind of thing. And then I added a kind of a more simple bleepy element to it. As a layer, and they're at different levels. And then once I got these layers together, you treat it subtractively, like almost any sampler. Once you have the sample set up, you can run it through filters, you can modulate stuff. It is a subtractive synthesizer. And that's how I think about sampling when I'm making a sound, is that instead of an oscillator, I have a sample player, right? And the sample is generating the sound that an oscillator would. And then from there on, I treat it like any other synth that's got a subtractive signal flow. So I've got, it's real easy to assign envelopes. This is envelope 1, and envelope 1 is assigned to right there, the cutoff. So all I did was click on that and drag it to that handle, whatever it's called, destination. And each parameter has 3 possible modulators, right? Anyway, so that one's there already. And you click and drag up and down. This is pretty common to plugin interfaces nowadays. Click and drag, and then there's something that lets you drag up and down to change the amount of modulation. That sounds cool. All right, so I thought about automating, modulating the decay. And, you know, this is an Ableton Live thing that has not changed in ages, but anytime you have a... These are already here, but I'll get rid of them so you can... If you ever have a situation where you've got a third-party plugin and there's nothing there yet for automation, just click Configure. It tells you to do it. And then click on the parameter that you want to be able to automate or assign Midi to through Live. Ableton Basics with John Selway. All right. Show automation. Let's make a nice long oh, there it is. See, this time I got it. I guess it depends on... I should have looked at this before. I was talking before about Ableton Live having automation or modulation. It looks like some devices don't have modulation as an option. Why is that, Ableton Live? Anyway, this is what I was looking for before, was modulation as opposed to automation. But anyway, for now though, I'm just going to stick with the usual automation, unlink the loop, set the length, I don't know, 8 bars maybe. And let's get that increasing. Actually, let's go even longer. Go back down again, why not? All right, let's move on to the next sound that I had. Now this one was starting with the preset. This was like, I had actually in my head a melodic idea that I thought would be more like kind of an acidy thing, right? So these are the notes that I drew in, and this was literally me like composing. Like I thought of the melody and then I drew in the notes, right? So I started with this. Oops, wrong one. And of course, it doesn't sound acidy at all now because, you know, I started trying to make some kind of weird spectral acid sound, and then it got complicated, and I thought, okay, it wasn't working. I wasn't happy. Let's just preset browse. And that's another fun thing if you're a preset person, that you just have a random button that will randomly load whatever preset from whatever presets you have installed. And that can be a fun sort of inspiration when you're stuck. So I don't want to mess up the sound now, but all I did to find this particular sound was click random a couple times, and then as soon as I heard something cool, I kept it. But then I went in and tried to modify it a little bit. So this sound had some weird layers in it, which I wanted to get rid of. So, for example, it has these little clicky, which is actually, it's okay, it's percussive. But it sounds out of time a little bit. Like it sounds a little bit late. I wonder if I can move that over somehow. Or find another part of it. All right, if you do something you don't like it, I love plugins, especially complex plugins that have undos. There you go, it's gone. So you can get really specific with the sound. Like you can go in and add or delete something very small to customize it a little bit. Let's see if I can give it a little. All right, so you hear how it's just making those subtle little changes. It's really powerful. But I like just the smoother sort of organ-like layer of this. So let's keep that. Looks like I'm going to have to undo a bunch of stuff. I've messed it up. There we go. Let's hear how that sounds with the beat. I like that. Yeah, TWE Industries asks, do they have any wavetable style sweeps? I haven't gone through all of the samples yet, but there is a lot in there, and there's some packs that I haven't downloaded yet. So there are some cool moving, modulating sort of things. So I would be surprised if there weren't some sort of wavetable-like sounds in there. Okay. Let's look at some effects now. So I made a rack here. Whoa. Which adds another layer on top of this synth. Come on, open up. There we go. Right, so this actually started as a preset, but it doesn't sound anything like the preset anymore because I completely modified it. So basically, this is one of the new effects in Live 11. This is the... Wait, what is it again? Which one is it? It's the Spectral Resonator. If you're familiar with Corpus, it's similar to that. Corpus is it's a physical modeling based resonator. And this is like a way more complex version of that in a way, if I get it right. And someone, if you're a live expert and you think I'm wrong, tell me. I want to be corrected. But to my ears and to but based on what I see it doing, it's a different kind of, it's similar to what Corpus is doing. And also there's the resonator effect, right? So they have some things to do with each other in terms of what's going on here with the sound. And what's happening here is it's basically like a spectral filter or a resonating spectral filter, and you have control over the number of different frequencies inside of it up to, well, 256, and as little as 1. If you have 1 harmonic, it's just going to be a sine wave. So you can see that's 3. As I add more harmonics, we're getting more overtones on top. It's going to get brighter and brighter. And then there are a couple of different, there's a chorus wander. Let's see what they describe these types of modulation modes as. So you can have no modulation. Chorus applies triangle wave modulation at different frequencies. Wander ramps to random levels at random intervals, and granular randomly triggers exponential envelopes, right? So it's doing different types of modulations to all of those resonating filters. And right now I have it on granular, and you're hearing it kind of spread out into individual little grains of frequencies that are happening. And you can see there, if I switch it to wander, it sounds smoother, or chorus. And there's no modulation at all. Anyway, so whatever signal you feed into this, it's going to make it ring. And then you can tune, you can transpose the frequency of it. You can shift the overtones up and down with the shift control. And stretch is spreading them closer apart or bringing them back closer together. All right, I'm going to actually, I like that. I'm going to keep it. Let's start from a default and see what this thing does. So normally by default, it has its own internal pitch, and you just choose what that frequency is. Right, so now it's whatever signal's coming into it, it's resonating in this filter, and you can tune it to match whatever key you're in. There's an envelope. How long it rings. After it starts ringing, you can have it ring longer. It can be droning, basically. So it's kind of tracking the amplitude of the input. We can... Right. That's not doing anything right now. I wonder why. All right, so that's stretch. Just that is techno. Gosh. Okay, so that's just set at one frequency, and you can go by a rate of hertz, or you can choose a musical note to more easily tune it. What I was doing, though, was I set the mode to Midi, and now I can send any Midi that's going on in my session into this, and it will follow that pitch. So I had it set to the track that was playing my kind of organy, chordy melody that I found accidentally. So now that's them. You can hear that there's the audio coming in, right? And then, you know, it's kind of playing at a different interval, so I want to transpose it so it sounds more in key. Make it brighter with the shift. Play around with the relationship between all of those frequencies with the stretch. You can try out the different modulation. We can also modulate the pitch. And finally, at the end here, we have a unison mode where we can double, quadruple. We could go up to 8 voices. All right, so I've kind of messed that up, but let's turn that off and go back to where I had it before, which is where I want it to be. So I've got it transposed up a couple octaves higher. It's kind of got this bell-like ringing tone on top, and it's adding a brighter layer. That was one of the things about this sound that I wanted to change, was this sample doesn't have any more high frequencies in it, and this synth doesn't have a way for me to like modulate the sound, at least I haven't found it yet, to add the higher harmonics, like if I was using some kind of FM modulation or other type of audio rate modulation to create frequencies that weren't there. So this is a way to do it. I can have this resonator pitched up higher and following that melody, and then it's giving it another kind of sparkly, shiny layer on top. Right, and the next thing I thought was, let's put some space on that. So here was the first time that we're trying Live's hybrid reverb. Right, and the first thing I thought was, is this the same convolution that comes with Max for Live? And no. All of these impulse responses, I believe, are new. And these texture ones are really cool because they're not like big washy rooms. They kind of they're more subtle, right? And so right now we're listening to just the convolution. In the middle here, you can choose whether you're going from the convolution into the algorithmic reverb, or whether you're layering them in parallel, or just the algorithm, which is over here, or just the convolution, which is what I have right now. Let's hear just noise flutter, whatever that is. It sounds good on this sound. It's got some different vintage settings, which I suppose must be emulating different types of old digital reverb effects. Very handy to have a bass mono switch in a reverb. If you're putting reverb on low frequency sounds, being able to sum the lows to mono so that you don't cause, as mentioned earlier, phase problems like in the kick and things like that. When you put reverb on a kick, you want to be careful about putting too much reverb on like the sub frequencies of that kick because of these phase issues. So right there, you have a nice mono button, and whenever this would be a really great reverb to experiment with putting on a kick. This sound, I'm not worried about it. It doesn't have any subs, so. Let's check on the chat real quick. That organ is lit, Dominic Frechette says. I agree. Thank you. And A2Sith says a bit Detroit-y kind of. Yeah, I kind of lean that way lately. I mean, always. I love Detroit-inspired techno. It has been a huge inspiration to me, as it has been to many. And I like when, you can be futuristic and techno and musical and soulful and use more sophisticated harmony and not be trancey or melodic techno or house. Like there's this, it's another direction, which I really like a lot. So might have gone a little overboard on the effects for this. It sounds good dry too. Maybe I just need to address the balance. Maybe there's just, like there's the dry chain in the audio effect rack. Just need to bring it down a little bit. Okay, better. It sounds really far away and wide now in my headphones. This is fun. Another thing that I made just a little bit of use of, and it's such a nice subtle thing, is the new probability controls in the MIDI clips. You can see here down at the bottom, velocity and probability. You can turn those on and off or hide them completely. And, I'm sure some of you have seen these, new Live 11 videos that have been out this week that already talked about this, but still worth pointing out that I have selected just these high notes, right? Oh. And reduced the chance of them playing at all. So just these guys. And, if it's at 100, they're going to play every time. And if I bring that down, you're going to skip sometimes. So maybe a little more than that. Maybe I want one of those to play more often, so bring that up a little higher. What happens if I only want the first note to play sometimes? Yeah, let's see how that works. Let's bring that down to, I don't know, 60%. Really easily add probability to anything. There were other ways to do this before, using different plug-in devices, but this just totally streamlines it. And especially for techno, like where you have these repeating phrases over and over again, to have these subtle variations every now and then can go a long way into keeping things interesting and engaging. Like your brain kind of, even if it's so subtle that it's just like one note that disappears every now and then, your brain recognizes that and hears it as evolution. And it keeps things interesting, and a 1 bar or 2 bar loop becomes interesting for a whole minute because of these subtle little changes that are happening. I mean, I could do that in the hi-hat too, right? Like maybe I put in like a fill, a little roll or something, and then make those so they barely ever play. And so it'll just add in these occasional extra notes. Make them a little quieter. And reduce the probability of those pretty low, and hopefully we won't have to wait for too long before we hear them. There you go. And, you know, those of you who are familiar with using hardware sequencers, like the Electron stuff, for sure, or modular sequencers, there's a lot of modern sequencers that incorporate this kind of probability on a step basis. So this is where you get to easily do it in live. I think it's great. Stylistically, totally appropriate. Cosmic J saying, the bells. Oh my God, it's like too many bells. Is it bells? It is organ. It's organs and bells today on Techno Saturday. Spectral organs and bells. And then this guy. Whatever this is. So I have one more sound. We're running down the clock now, 1:56. Oh, there was another little subtle modulation, and I did in this sound that I forgot to get. I forgot to mention. So that kind of tone that comes in at the beginning. Is a really slow pitch bend of the pitch is just going up really slowly up and down with this LFO that's running at like 0.013 hertz, super slow, and it's just doing a little bit of modulation of the fine tuning, and it's really hypnotic if you listen to that. Just this with the kick drum, it's like an old Panasonic track or something. Miko Vaino and those guys. It's all in the subtleties for me. All right, so the last sound is, I needed some kind of bass. I'm not 100% sold on this sound yet. It's kind of like a donkey stab, like it's gonna boom, right? But it sounds good. And again, I'm using the Spectral resonator to kind of give a little bit of special sauce. It's fine without it, but it's so straight, right? And again, this is a preset. And this is a good example of how precisely you can construct sounds with these layered spectral sample slots here. So there's kind of the mid-range filtered one, and then there's like a little transient. It sounds like a little hi-hat. It's just a little tick. It's so subtle. And then I think that might be it. There's nothing there. What's that one? Just a sine wave, just like this is your sub. You can get really, so I guess aside from the spectral part of it, what this plugin is really good at doing is layered sample design. And, you know, I'm going to revisit this at some point and go in and try to make some more complex layered sounds, but I need to spend some more time with it before I would present that, because this is really, this is a first look today. All right, but I like this sound better with that. And it's basically kind of doing a fancy, like, big unison detuning thing to it. It's adding multiple layers to the sound. Let's hear it by itself. Sounds like filtered square waves. And it has a nice high resolution sort of detail to it. It sounds almost as if I'm putting like an ensemble chorus on it, but it's nicer. So I like what that's doing to this sound. Little EQ, little compression. Sounding a little muddy in there now, these chords, these crazy chords. Maybe I'm going a little overboard on the spectral processing, but it is 2 o'clock. We have made it to the end. I'm trying to watch for the winner here. Whoa, who is the winner? We're supposed to do the winner of the giveaway, right? I'm supposed to be announcing that. So, yeah, let's just check into the chat while we're waiting for the official word on who has won our $200 certificate for Ableton Live. Dominic Frechette says that Izotope holiday bundle with Iris included is a steal. Yeah, and I might even still get it, even though I already got Iris for free, and I already have some of the other element stuff. Just the 3 reverb effects that come with it are worth the 50. So if I still might get it. And I agree, Cosmic J, really smart move to bring the probability stuff. It's just a no-brainer. And it was there before with different plugins and different Max for Live devices, and you could rig things up with the MIDI effects. You could make kind of a random thing going on, but this just really makes it straightforward for everybody, just to have it right there in the MIDI. And yeah, I'm just holding on here. Normally I'd be signing off while we're waiting for the winner to be announced. Oh, if we're doing random questions, TWD Industries asks, have you gotten a chance to play with the Soma Labs Lyra 8? I haven't. I would love to. That Soma Labs in general, if I could afford it, I'd just go buy all their stuff right now. It's so unique. And the Lyra looks amazing. Whatever the drum machine is looks, that would be first on my list. If someone said you can have any Soma Labs device you want, that would be the one. They look really cool. I haven't gone in on a lot of hardware lately. A couple little things, like, I did the Mega FM, and I had a Digitact, which I actually sold because I wasn't using it. And, I have my Roland Boutiques, the SH01 and the TB03, right? And, those are just I just wanted to have them because those are, so important in the history of this music. And I have a real 303 that I can just keep safely in storage and then use the new one and take that around. Another random question from Dominique: am I into dub techno? Absolutely. I really, like anything, there can be a little too much of it and it can get generic, but when it's good, it's the best. I really love those deep hypnotic grooving bass space excursions, from the obvious basic channel chain reaction and forward. And I also really love like the harder side of it, like the old Bandulu stuff, for example, where it's like fast, powerful looping techno with deep dub bass. I love that too. And yeah, A2 Seth, I would also love to have an Op6. It has what I love about modern FM synthesis in terms of you're not stuck with, you're not limited to preset algorithms. You can make your own. That's why I love, of all the FM plugins, FM8 is the best for me because of the precision of the envelopes, which are amazing, and then also the fact that there's a matrix that can route any operator to any operator, and you can be really creative and just use what you need in the moment as you think of it. And you don't have to think ahead, which algorithm do I need? You just put it in there where you want it. So that's what I like best about the Op6. What I don't like is that it's $700. It's a lot. I'm checking my phone. I have not gotten a message from Thomas about the winner. I hope everything is okay. I'm not going to be able to hang on too much longer, so I'm just going to start signing off. Once again, my name is John Selway. Let's switch back over to the full screen here, so I'm not just hiding in the corner. Thanks to everyone who've been hanging out today. Good luck to whomever the winner is going to be for our $200 Ableton giveaway. And just, to remind all of you, I've got a course starting tomorrow. So if you're interested at all and getting a good deal on a synth and sound design for producer course with me, it starts tomorrow. And right now we have a code for 45% off any online class. And this is like early Black Friday, early turkey for you guys. And this is, as always, an everyday thing for 343 Labs. 343 TV is on almost every day. We're off tomorrow. The next up, we will have tips and tricks with dolltr on Monday. So please do, all of you, come back to see Claire, to see dolltr do her show. She's really good. And all right, last call for the winner. Thomas, I hope you hear me. I hope everything is okay. I guess we're going to have to notify the winner offline. And so to whomever that is today, congratulations. And I will see all of you guys again next week. Thanks very much.